Now you wait a gosh darn moment. I think I gotta wait before I can swear on YouTube anymore. But seriously, that might be one of the greatest misdirects I've seen this year for anime, because we end last week with Sherlock screwing the pooch. He shot the lock and we were about to drown. And within less than a couple of minutes, the safe is gone. And I'm thinking, wait a second, did they maybe play their cards a little too fast? I think we were all expecting that this would be a little more intense. But the fact that this was misdirect after misdirect leading into the League of Supervillains popping up. You got Carmilla the Vampire, you got Jack the Ripper, Frankenstein, Moriarty. Yeah, I mean, goddamn, we snapping fingers and burning fools. And it's not even just like they're killing characters slightly off screen. Like, you're seeing characters get diced into pieces. It is brutal. And honestly, I leave this episode feeling like the supervillains are about to win. Like, Jesus, Moriarty, I thought you were gonna pop up in the next act, like Act 3, and we just make Sherlock versus Lupin a whole lot more interesting. Now, I do have a full live reaction to today's wonderful Undead Murder Farce episode available on my Patreon, so if you'd like to see my full and good thoughts, it's over there if you're interested. We have a lot to dive into, but first things first, I have to, little round of applause to our boy Lupin. So, what I really like, and something that I feel like a lot of Sherlock series get wrong, is that it's easier in a book because there's a lot more ways to do subtle cues. And while I necessarily don't see it coming, I have to say that this kind of gets the Sherlock story right, where you have the clues there, and if you observe them, then in return you can kind of piece it together similar to how someone like Sherlock does when he reveals it. But the idea of Lupin pretty much revealing to Sherlock how his disguises work before this all happens. He shows how easy it is to pull the face off. So last episode, when the police officer gets his face stretched, I'm like, well, it can't be him because we checked the people, right? There's no mask in sight. And we see that no, Lupin made us all collectively drop our guard, because by showing how the masks work, when you then in return take that same concept and attempt it on someone, you realize that, okay, we don't even second guess that maybe he has a more intricate way to attach a fake face to him, not to mention the kind of cotton down the throat in order to change his voice. It's genius, and the way that he calls it out, because, okay, this man's clearly a lot more heavy than Lupin is, yet his footsteps sound like a skinny person, and they do focus in on the feet. It's not like it came from nowhere. If you do go back and watch that scene, I do understand what he's talking about. It's very clever, and I think that really gets the essence of Sherlock Holmes, and the idea of seemingly besting Sherlock last week to having him call him out, okay, but he gets away, like Lupin's got the W, right? And the fact that they blow it up into such an extraordinary event where you literally have Moriarty and the crew come in, killing all the cops in sight, but most importantly, making it feel helpless. Hell, Phantom wanted nothing to do with it. Phantom caught a whiff of the smoke and dipped. He's like, I don't want what they're cooking, I'm out of here. And Jesus Christ, man, he gets shot by a crossbow. It is just not looking good, and I'm not even sure who to root for anymore because I kind of like all the characters, and I still feel like I can change Carmilla. I feel like there's a possibility there, and it's not because they keep focusing in on the cake as she's like, ooh, I got a little blood on my dress, and I'm like, god damn, what are you doing to a boy? But seriously, this was great. This was one of the best Undead Murder Farce episodes because it does reward what you want to see in a Sherlock-style show, which this has kind of become because Sherlock's now a part of it. And the way they handled Lupin, the Master of Disguise, but most importantly, what were they going to do with Sugaro as well as Aya, because they were kind of out of the picture. The fact that they even do this, which I didn't see a single soul last week, say, because when I was like, damn, I literally called it out. In Act 1, we saw what he's capable of fighting. He absolutely wrecked a vampire. So seeing Lupin wreck him, I was like, damn, that shows the difference in power. And I saw no one disagree with that. Everyone was like, yep, that's insane. That's a crazy ass fight. Enter this episode, bigger plan. Everyone has plans upon plans, and we don't know who's truly out on top right now. But right now I'm betting on the League of Supervillains over here, but even then I'm not 100%. The fact that we had him lose on purpose, and the fact that he was under the assumption that the severed head was just a bird in a birdcage and the reporter girl was the one who was talking to him, makes him drop his guard so he never suspects that the inside of the safe would have a talking severed head, which I do have to admit, the dentist bill gotta be crazy going forward because people are catching diamonds in their mouth or holding a metal door shut with her teeth. I mean, granted, she is a severed head, but goddamn, I don't think dental plan's gonna cover the amount of braces, if not replacement teeth, that she's gonna need. But jokes aside, like, it's insane. Like, everything about this just feels like, oh my god, you go back and you look at it from a different point of view now, and just, like, these are the types of shows where rewatches are gonna be so much more exciting because there's so much to unpack. And I really thought what was gonna happen was, okay, this would be an episode that was primarily focused on the water side, because they had some pockets of air, seemingly. I was like, okay, that's where they're gonna go. And like I said, at first, I thought it was disappointing because I was like, oh, they quickly stole it. But then it just got so much more interest, and I'm like, thank God they just got out of that safe, because having these characters, well, yes, some of my favorite anime episodes are literally just characters talking in one setting. There's the episode with Rem's confession in ReZero. There's the Banquet of Kings in Fate Zero. Those are episodes where not a lot happens, but it's so immersive. But it felt like there was more to tell than just watching a character or a group of characters sit in a room together like this. And that's why it getting crazier and crazier just felt so rewarding. And once again, I leave an episode, I'm like, damn it, there's no damn way that was the full 20 minutes, because you had me hook, line, and sinkered. And I don't know where we go from here. Now, I did have one issue with the episode, and this is something that I bring up from time to time, and I'm always under the assumption it's a me issue, so I completely recognize this. But I have an issue, it's just the way my eyes are. I'm not good at seeing in the dark in terms of like your average person, so when an anime scene is very dim, which there was a lot of in this, whether it was when Phantom was getting hunted by the girl, or the numerous times like when they were like floating up to the ceiling, I had a hard time keeping track with like what was happening. It was far too dim. As an example, like usually if you were to increase the brightness on a screenshot, if you capture a screenshot from an anime episode, if you were to go into Photoshop and increase the brightness, if you go past like 15, you usually see a lot of very bad distortion with the color. The shot that I use in my thumbnail for like the dead cops or whatever, I increased it to 100 and it looked alright. Like that's just how dim it was. And for me, a little too dark, but that could just be a nitpicky thing just because of the ways my eyes are. You can definitely let me know if you agree that it was too dark at times, but it's one of those things that I'm not saying, oh, the episode's trash because of it, but I do have to call it out when for me personally, I can't tell what's happening sometimes on screen. Thankfully, a lot of the action was in very bright locations, and I love the fact that if you compare Act 1, where Aya was kind of like in that Rakugo performance where she was doing all the acting for all the different players, Tsugaru kind of did that as he was narrating as they were coming down, and I thought that was a nice switch from what we were used to in Act 1. And yeah, this was a pretty fantastic episode. I mean, on one hand, it is always a shame that I feel like I have such passion for a series like this and not a lot of people seemingly care about it. So I just want to say I do appreciate the homies who come back week after week to discuss what I consider to be one of this year's best anime. It does mean a lot to me. I thank you for that, because these types of series deserve love, and I'm glad that we are trying to build a cult following anyway for that undead murder farce greatness. But let me know what you thought of this episode down below. Thoughts and feelings, leave them down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell of course. And like I mentioned, we do have a full live reaction available on my Patreon, and hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Dark Lord, Do Guy Man, Edrei Zahari, Samantha, Shadow Cyber Demon, and Fate. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.